Hello! Just do it. Turns out okay. Hey everyone, we're here for the Open the Dark Portal in the T minus 9 minutes. The first day is gonna be a spam fest of death and killing and stuff. So, yay! Lots of death, lots of killing, lots of everything. Lots of lag. So, yeah, it's gotta. Oh, yeah. Lag like crazy. I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. Across the land, searching far and wide. There's a little time for the watchers of knife grats and servers of the portal, even screaming at our land. The March, we for sure, Nathergard Kyle into the breach. Searching far and wide. Chase Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Lots of lag today. 'Cause 4 minutes to go. Oh, guys. Well, it's early, I guess. Oh. Is there a thing here I can get or not? See, I thought I saw a quest, but I guess not. Whatever. Oh, I don't see it. Or do I see it? Yes. Rock Salt for underground. Rock Salvage War. Win. Target Grim Pressure. Field of Outland. And sure victory Hanami. So here we go. Burning Crusade begins now. Welcome to Outland. The Horde needs all the strength they can muster in this broken world. I promise you, if it's a glorious battle you come seeking, you'll here. Stay safely the portal. Some new base called Thromore. You see the brain we made cut off from our brothers. Surely demons hope that you take Dark Portal. Demons hope that you take gathering reinforcements from Azeroth. Neutral Thalmar, yes. Lands, my forces will hold the line here, but I need you to deliver the report to General Gartha and Thalmar. Let's help get able to drive these demons back from the abyss that spawned them. Speak to Volga Farfeather, who's sent on the platform behind us. So speed you on your way. Did I not take it? Or... Shadowland, what you expect to see is nothing like the stories you've been told. It's hard to believe that people ever thrive in this desolate place. We're in business. Emergency messenger, I pray you fare better than the last one he sent, Druid. Please, in pressing in, you never make it to Tharmar on foot. I say the word, my favorite word, Druid. You're safely there. God, the slowness. Oh, God, the slowness. Here, quickly. I can rely on troops can send them portal that Legion not should cry the horde. As for you, Nami, I've done great service to Tharmar that day. Help. You want to help us? You got to help us or you die. Speak with Nazgrel. Right from Azeroth, huh? You better see yourself, Druid. There are perils in this land, unlike anything or has faced before. I am Nazgrel, the mighty war chief Thrall. He honored me with the task of safeguarding all spirits I shall. Must be brave warriors to this cursed wasteland. I have little interest in seeing more untested recruits to the slaughter. Still, General Grok sent me to you. He must be important. You'll serve your chief of honor. Because Sergeant Cyrus got the Thromar. Get the blood from the bone chewers. Uh, just look for the horde. Even the orc hired me to help me. They give me money and stuff. I salvaged wood and metal. Had also fight your past demons keep coming back for more. Save our enemy, sure. Just spark Eastving imps. Okay. Sweet. Yep. Death and carnage. Damn, got someone beat me to it. Never got. Never got my my own faction still honored and stuff. Need a wood. Got one wood. Yes. Guess I stand here and spam this, I guess. Damn it. Someone told me what I was spamming. Yes. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Need to spam metal now. It's wood still. Can't get any deaths killing things yet. Still. Gotta stay here and spam this, I guess. Just gotta find the thing. Yes, right. Crap. Got my medal. Come on, reappear. God damn. Ugh. Just need to stay here a little bit longer. No. Hmm. Everything's burning. Three metal pieces. Hmm. Great, I'm frozen. No, I'm frozen. Oh, boo. Ugh. Four. Just four more medals. 5. It's a very boring episode, obviously, because I'm just standing here clicking things. I I forgot to make my home here and good old ramparts. I'll do that after I get my metal things. Oh, boo! I was spamming that metal. Boo! 7. One more. I can go get my thing. 8. An 8. I got that. Don't need to hear that. Don't need to go that anymore. Right in. And then get my Hearthstone ready to go. You're putting out jealousy. Yep, here's your stuff. Great, a little more material for making high explosives. Ooh. All right, turn in. Let's uh, oh, this. Oops, 200. There it is, self-stone. Yes. Ooh, yes. Drink water. I can fill this stuff finally. I don't need stuff either. I get free water there, so that's good. So, yeah, I need to reset my thing real fast. Balance. Free fire. Rank 4. Rank 10. Hmm. What are you doing? It's very important. Mm. See. Yeah. Ugh. image. Guys, wait.
Are they articulated partially or fully together? And that's where that whole thing with the scapula also came from.
Come on, the phone. Oh, I'm busy right now.
And MF, he starts talking about this one time, and like mid-sentence, he realizes his mistake because they don't have an answer for this. Why are they in partial articulation or full articulation if they're from different species? Mm-hmm. He references, because my comedy spit take on that is the creationist literature. This was back when we were on good terms. Like, oh yeah, Gutsy Gibbons says, she makes kind of a funny joke about how it's, they must have collided, and he kind of pauses. Like, yes, and what's the actual argument? And then he changes the subject because they have no way to account for this partial or full articulation. There is no answer other than they came from a single species, and that species is super mosaic and problematic.
Yeah, that's where the sleight of hand comes in. So when you were saying mosaic, that's when you're referencing one part of the articulation being basal and the other part being derived at the other end?
Of the whole species. So for instance, the brain case is very small and it's mildly prognathic, but the dental arcade is starting to look like modern humans. The postcrania is super derived. This animal definitely walked on 2 feet. Its pelvis is bowl-shaped, very similar to anatomically modern Homo sapiens, but its upper arms are incredibly ape-like. It's built for suspension, almost like holding itself up like that. But then the hands are very anatomically modern human with a partial precision grip. And so in conventional science, this is because organisms tend to evolve in a mosaic way. Not everything is evolving at the same rate, which is why the perfect transitional isn't a partially bipedal, partial quadruped, with a brain case midway between a chimp and a human, right? It's something with a small brain that's fully bipedal, because bipedalism evolved first. And with that, everything involved with bipedalism. So the shape of the pelvis, the inline big toe, the femoral head angle, valgus knee, things of that nature. Things don't evolve at the same time. It's not that clear cut. And they don't do that now, and they didn't do that then. We don't see that in the fossil record pretty much in any species. Nothing is a 50-50 perfect transitional. Things evolve at different rates. Mm-hmm. But it's still really problematic. I mean, eventually I'm sure we're going to get from the creationists, yes, so some ape men walked upright, but that doesn't make them humans. Come on, and then the next question is going to be, okay, what does, And they can't do that. They can't come up with that list of criteria to distinguish human fossils from ape fossils, because that would be like, as Aaron Rov, likes to point out, finding something to differentiate dog fossils from canid fossils.
Right, like the half ape, half man thing doesn't even make sense, if you're speaking in phylogenetic terms. Like it's like half dog, half canine, or yeah. So obviously watching that video is pretty frustrating. I imagine making it was. Your debate with Kent Hovind was frustrating. What frustrates you about some of the people that you make responses to, or maybe that you used to make responses to?
That's a really good question. The thing that frustrates me more than anything is the illusion of trying to be a good faith actor. With a lot of these people, there is the outward attempt at looking like they want this we just want to have a conversation. We just want a dialogue. But when you pose difficult questions, all you get is a pivot, ever. There is no concession. There is no, okay, you might be right, but we're working on it, even. I mean, you get the only thing I've ever seen creationists do that on is the heat problem. And that's because it is so mind-bendingly problematic that they have to put their hands up. They have to say, okay, yeah, it looks like Noah's Ark has a huge heat problem. We can't get all the things that you can't cram, billions of years worth of radiometric decay into a single half-year period and not burn, vaporize the granitic crust of the Earth. So that's the one thing that they tend to be like, okay, fine, it's a problem for us and we're working on it. Everything else, they don't care what you propose. And with MFB, the classic is this. And
I love that name.
That's he's the stand-in for all of them because they all behave this way with very few exceptions, and those exceptions do exist. Salvador Cordova doesn't tend to do this. Sal doesn't tend to do this. But they take point A, right? So let me think of an example. A perfect example actually is the transitional species thing with Australopithecus amoeba and Homo habilis. MFB will come out and say something along the lines of, there aren't transitionals, there's only apes, there's only humans. And then someone else, in this case me, will come out and say, that's an interesting statement that you made. Here's why it's incorrect. We know that there are indeed transitional species that are mosaic in nature. In fact, we've got a ton of them. Here's why we know that these species are indeed legitimate. Here they are in partial or full articulation in the ground. They are a legitimate species. How do you cope with that? Your turn. And then they go, there aren't any transitional species. Reassert A. It's cool that you think B, but we're not actually going to address the criticism that you have of our initial point. We're simply going to reassert it and say we've addressed what it has said. Cool.
Yeah.
What was your response?
Yeah, it's not just that they've addressed it. It's the video title is that you've been destroyed. You've been annihilated.
Thoroughly refuted, early retirement, the classic adjectives. And it's like, if you've got to be that hyperbolic, you might be compensating for something. And I thoroughly, I love it when people are like, hey, Guts a Gibbon, have you considered this? And it's something I genuinely haven't considered. Great point. I'll look into it, But that's not what you get from these guys. Because this is, as I've said a lot recently, this is my catchphrase for these guys, right? It's not about the answers. It's about the illusion of answers. That's it. They just want to maintain the illusion that this is still a conversation without actually having to address anything that you have to say. That's what it's like for Kent, and that's what it's like for MFB and pretty much all of the other YouTube creationists. They don't want the conversation or the discussion. They don't want to take what you said and look into it and actually come up with a decent, well-formulated response to it. So for instance, if they said carbon dating doesn't work and you say, yes, it does, here's a bunch of answers or a bunch of reasons why we know that it does in fact work. Radiocarbon dating is a good thing. Instead of actually digging into your methodology or the things that you're saying, again, it's a reassertion of point one. So that's the thing that I hate the most. It's like, because I started this whole gig on Reddit in the debate evolution community, and it's a sad deal that the guys on Reddit are better at this than the YouTube guys, and even some of the professionals. They actually go out and try to find a way to support what it is that they're saying. They're not good at it, but they're better at it than the ones that are here on www.youtube.com.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like, man, I could come up with better creationist arguments than these guys could.
You'll only get better. It's just you'll only continue to get better. The more that you kind of play around in this sandbox, the more that you realize, and this is another biggie, the arguments will recycle themselves. So in a couple of years, you'll see what they were saying now, and they're saying the same thing again. They retire it for a little bit, and then it comes back into fashion.
Especially with Ken, or he doesn't even retire his arguments; he just keeps making them.
But listen,
killer, nice.
Kent's going to come back with the mammoth claim again. That's the only thing I've ever seen him actually take out of his presentation. But it'll be back. He'll bring that bad boy right back into the fray and start talking about how they radiometrically dated the same mammoth and got two vastly different dates. Just completely aware of, but absolutely not a single iota of a shit that it's two different mammoths, and that was explained to him multiple times, to the point that he removed it from his presentation. It'll be back if Kent is still alive, and since Kent is powered by spite for the government, he'll probably be alive in 10 years. he'll be reasserting that same point again. That's my feeling.
I even brought it up during our debate, and he completely ignored it. But
I'll remember that.
speaking of Dr. Kent Hovind,
Kent Hovind.
Yeah. One of the things he likes to say about Lucy is that she was just a 3-foot tall chimpanzee. Can you tell me, how wrong this is? Can you sort of elucidate this?
The thing is, so Kent is bottom tier creationist, and yet you will hear AIG say the same thing, and they will take it to the next level where they'll commission a reproduction of Australopithecus afarensis as this knuckle walking bonobo, basically. There are a couple of reasons why we know that Australopithecus afarensis was not a knuckle walking quadruped, definitively. And the first location for it the skull. And I'm actually going to pull out a skull for this because that's why I have them. So this is an Australopithecus afarensis skull. As I mentioned earlier, this is a reproduction of Lucy, so the bits that are filled in are from the actual Lucy specimen. The way we know that the skull actually looks this way comes from numerous other specimens. This is just a representation of Lucy in particular, which, interestingly,
that is awesome.
It's actually
awesome.
It's a very cool skull. Look at how
a little creepy.
Look at how transitional it is. It's actually I'm known for my small skull amongst friends and families, and Lucy is quite a bit smaller than humans, and we have a very similar size skull. But the foramen magnum of Lucy is right underneath the brain case. Lucy couldn't be a knuckle-walking quadruped without having to crane her neck like this constantly. The muscle attachments aren't there. It runs biomechanically contra to the actual physical evidence that we have of Australopithecus afarensis. Particularly, actually, not Lucy, all of the other ones for which we have much better support for, or actually physical evidence of the cranium. Another great example, and this runs true for all of the Australopithecines, actually, more particularly Australopithecus africanus or africanus, as some say, because this individual, we have the skull with some of the vertebral column still coming out of it. It's actually preserved in that way. The Dakika child is what it's known as in literature and things like that's the nickname it's been given. Mm-hmm. But it's not just the foramen magnum, right? It's not just the foramen magnum that lets us know that this animal
was die now, I guess.
Not a knuckle-walking quadruped. Lucy's pelvis is, to a 5-year-old, identical to the human pelvis. Now, there are a lot of minutiae that makes it different and unique, but to an untrained eye, this looks like a human pelvis. In fact, in my debate with Kent, I actually showed a PowerPoint slide with Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and Australopithecus afarensis pelvises alongside the chimp pelvis, and was like, a 5-year-old could tell you the chimp pelvis is the odd man out, because the chimp pelvis is the only one that's not walking bipedally. Australopithecines have a bowl-shaped pelvis like ours, and the reason is because it has to have a powerful pelvic floor to hold all the organs up and inside of you when you're standing upright. There's a reason why chimps and gorillas have kind of like a bulging belly when they're walking on all fours, because their organs are actually pushing against the abdominal wall. And they can have serious issues, like circus chimps have had serious issues when they stand upright throughout the 50s and 60s. These have circus-performing chimps. They have serious issues with their organs, being super unhealthy. And sometimes their pelvic floor giving way, and they die because they have serious complications. They're not built to walk upright. They didn't evolve that way, at least not permanently. They do habitual bipedalism, but usually only when they're crossing. It's not that they can't walk bipedally. It's just that they can't do it exclusively like we can. Yeah. But it's just those two things. It's not just massive, clearly obvious skeletal features that denote the fact that Australopithecus afarensis is a biped. It's also the knee and the femoral head. So it holds its femurs at an angle like this, right? So that it can hold the weight of the entire body directly above the legs. This is how you walk efficiently. If you hold it too forward, too much forward, or too sprawled to the side, you're not an efficient biped. You're actually wasting energy by moving around like that. And then, of course, there's the more inline halix or big toe. So its toe is actually much more like this than it is divergent like that. You can still do some gripping, so they think maybe Australopithecines might have been around in the trees a bit, but if they were in the trees, they also held themselves upright. We know that these guys weren't knuckle walkers, is what I'm saying.
I think it's possible that maybe the like Lucy's species, they didn't live exclusively in the trees, but it's possible that to escape a predator, they could have climbed up into a tree, and just waited until the predator, got bored and left, or sort of left them alone.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And this makes sense, actually, given the paleo environments that we know that these guys lived in, right? They're somewhat woody forests that give way to large savannas. They would have been great at this. This would have been, and they still have very primitive basal shoulders and upper arms, so they can still hold themselves, quite well in the trees if they needed to. But these guys aren't knuckle walkers. And the one thing that you'll hear that yes, they were in fact knuckle walkers is that they still have a partial notch for locking their knuckles in the distal ends of their arms, which isn't unexpected because one, it's less extreme than what we see in legitimate knuckle walkers, extant knuckle walkers, but also because it's plesiomorphic. It's like retained. It's a retained relic. We have those now. We sit on our tailbones every day. This would be like saying that a human definitively golly, I could just go on and on and on. So I'm going to stop now before I do. True snake, you can't prove that fossil had any babies because single fossils evolve, not populations, of course.
Well, I guess a fossil can't get pregnant either.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I love that one from Kent. I love that one so much. He's a galaxy brained man, that one.
Yeah, so creationists, they seem to have an emotional, almost a visceral reaction to the idea that humans are animals, and especially apes. Can you talk about how you try to promote a more positive view of us being part of the animal kingdom, and apes especially?
I can. You're asking home run questions. You're asking all the questions that I can talk for hours and hours and hours about. So I thought I gotta watch myself. Yeah, humans are definitively apes. This is not something that we can get around. It's something that's awesome, though. The fact that we humans represent, and I paint this very romantically because I love anthropology and I love primatology. I study other primates. That's what I want to continue to do. And being a part of the animal kingdom is such an incredible gift. Imagine if we were separated from the rest of the natural world. This is the world we live in. This is the world that we are a part of. Our bodies are specifically evolved for this world. And that's, you could go into a whole being a good steward of the planet and, not accelerating climate change, because this is the perfect planet for us to evolve on.
Yeah.
But being a part of the animal kingdom, and particularly with humans, being a part of one of the coolest underdog stories of kind of the Cenozoic, certainly, but even arguably of the entire history of lives. We descend from firm mesopredators, from animals smack dab in the middle of the food chain, scared of most things, sometimes able to take down others, and here we are communicating on our computers from completely different states in the year 2021 in our air-conditioned, warm homes, safe from any natural predators. We really did come, started from the bottom, now we're here. And that's part of our downfall too, certainly. But there's such beauty, as Darwin says, in this view of life, that we are a part of this continuous chain of animals successfully adapting to their environments and, growing to overcome certain challenges, because so many organisms don't. The inevitable fate of most animals is extinction or, of course, evolution. And eventually we'll meet one fate or the other. But for now, we occupy this really cool part of the mammal kind of family tree in particular, where we're a social species, that we're so social that we're sitting here again having this conversation through what is effectively time and space, which is so empowering to me. We're an incredible animal in a lot of ways, and it's important to remember. I say that, of course, but on my channel, I actually put a lot of emphasis on other apes being cooler in a lot of ways than we are, because all animals are cool and unique in their own way, such as the nature of evolving to fit niche, right? You're the best at what you do in your given location. But I think the long story short of it is that humans are one of the only animals out there, and I say one of, allowing for kind of a gap of knowledge there, but that can appreciate and their own humility in the grand scheme of things. And not enough people find that empowering or beautiful. I think being just another ape is a cool thing. We are just another ape, and yet somehow we managed to get to where we are today.
Yeah, I agree, because I know, some people like creationists or, people that don't appreciate it as much might say that, oh, I don't like the idea of being just an animal, but I look at it as more, we're the end result of a long lineage of survivors, of people who had to, or, animals who fought against the odds, for one of the main reasons being that we can walk for a really long time and sweat a lot.
Yeah, we like to hang out in groups.
Mm-hmm. Which is something I learned from your new video. See, I'm learning. But I've always been under the impression that maybe the key moment in human evolution was walking upright and gaining bipedalism, because that allowed the spine to support a bigger skull and a heavier, bigger brain, and thusly you have more intelligence. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I would hesitate to link the two, just for the sole reason that bipedality evolves and becomes efficient much faster than the big brain comes on the scene. So your big brain case doesn't even really start to pop up until like late Australopithecus, and even then we're looking at early Homo that's actually taking this to the next level, and really amping up that big brain for your body size. And the interesting thing with that is that with early genus Homo, you've got things like Homo habilis, Homo rudolfensis, and Homo gauchogensis coming along. They're about the same size as the paranthropines that are wandering around at the same time period, and yet they've got these big honking brains, in their skulls, in comparison to the paranthropines, who would still have these pretty modest brain case sizes of 500 and 600 cc's compared to what we see in Homo habilis, 700, 800, even pushing 900. So thank you, Otangelo. Otangelo Grassel, my nemesis. Yeah, the question of why did big brains evolve is a really good one. And it's not one that's fully fleshed out. You've got some folks like Robin Dunbar out there who think that the big brain actually evolved, the social brain hypothesis essentially. So the big brain evolved because of our socialities, to maintain these relationships, and thus be able to have these larger groups and live copacetically with more individuals. But then there are others who think that it was a dietary thing, who think that
I've heard that too.
Yeah, the addition of meat to the diet allowed us to have this kind of surplus of calories and energy, rather, to kind of seize and jump on these mutations that allowed for momentarily large increases in brain case size. There are others still who think it has more to do with development. We kept our young, gestated our young for longer, and therefore they had more time to kind of grow these larger brain case sizes, and we gave birth earlier to much more helpless young. I mean, a baby chimpanzee, almost out of the womb, can at least hold on to her mother's fur. Our babies are like little meatloafs for the first 2 years, right? Like, they can't do anything on their own. If anything, they're a liability, because they're constantly...
Yeah, they're almost suicidal.
Yeah, they're trying to get themselves killed. They're screaming all the time. But that curiosity actually ends up paying off in the long run, because it allows them to add so much information to those giant sponges inside their heads. And they're robust as hell, too. I mean, babies, can just take a header down two flights of stairs and be fine at the bottom. So it's a total mystery. It's a slight mystery as to what actually led to big brains evolving. I am of the opinion always that it's never one thing. I think that that's an awful way to look at ecology and an awful way to look at evolution. And it's really, really common still in the literature where people are like, this is it. I found the thing that caused X thing to evolve. It's never just that thing. Now, you can boldly claim, if you desire, that this is the primary cause, which which is what I did in my thesis, where it's like, I think this is the primary thing that spurs, monomorphic canines in a dimorphic species. And that's very bold and not always the right thing to do. But to impose the idea that there's a single pressure, I think is kind of asinine. So to the long answer to your short question is we don't know, but I think it's probably a combination of group living, diet, and development.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think we were talking about chimps and humans being sort of, similar in lots of different ways earlier. And, you can compare like things are similar on a chimp, but it seems to me that the human ear and the chimp ear are basically identical. And I would just love to hear, I haven't heard creationists explain this, but why do you think that is, like, there's that structure in particular would be so similar?
I mean, interestingly enough, like, most primates have very, very similar ears, especially when you get into the hominoids. I mean, you look at a gorilla's ear or an orangutan's ear, and they're also really dang similar. And it's because it's just not a structure that's needed to adapt a lot. I mean, humans are primates, and most primates, especially the catarrhines, right? We are first and foremost a visual species. We look at things and we make decisions based off of what we see. Our least useful sense is our sense of smell. We've pretty much given this up. Our sense of smell is hot garbage. And the interesting thing about that is that we still have all of the genes for great smelling. 3% of portions of our, I'm going to butcher this. It's like 3% is normal for mammals to dedicate in your genome for smelling. We still have that dedicated. It's just a lot of our genes are turned off. And interestingly enough, all of them in cetaceans are turned off. So why do they have them? It's kind of an interesting little vestigial deal going on there. But there are a lot of things like what you're talking about. I mean, have you seen the hand of many of the hominoids? I mean, going like this, right? You can see the different wrinkles on my hand. And many of these wrinkles are identical in many of the other hominoids. The ears, the teeth is a big one. We have the same dental formula, the same Y cusping on our back molars. That cusp is unique to hominoids alone. We all have a 2-1-2-3 dental formula, which means you basically quarter the jaw. And so you have 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars, and 3 molars. It's the same for all the primates. We all communicate vastly with our facial expressions, right? We all have lips that are relatively big for, most animals don't use our lips a lot. Humans and most primates have big lips that we use to make different vocalizations, because while hearing long distances isn't nearly as important as sight, it's still important. And the ear has evolved for kind of capturing sound in a very specific way. And it's kind of fine-tuned, if you will, to communication, to picking up the sounds of other individuals. Which is why it's really interesting to look at the inner ear, which is actually what helps decipher the sounds before they get to the brain to actually be like decoded or whatever, less ended upon by the ideas. Yeah, but they're tuned to some different frequencies. So chimps and humans obviously have the biggest overlap, but theirs is tuned a bit lower than ours is. And what we know about Neanderthals is that theirs is almost tuned a bit higher than ours is. And it has to do with how we vocalize, or for picking out syllables and sounds in the vocalizations of syllables and sounds for us language speakers. But yeah, the ear is a good one. That's one I haven't heard a lot, but you're right. Yeah, very similar, almost identical with all the arguments.
Yeah. Like, I know that, creationists can get a little bit uncomfortable with the similarities, but even for me, that's a little bit like, okay. Wow.
Yeah, another one of my favorites with that is like, the physical similarities are fun and fine. I mean, Linnaeus was famous for looking at creationist father of taxonomy. Linnaeus was famous for looking at the skeletons of the hominoids and of humans and being like, uh-oh, I don't know what to do here. These are really, really similar. Particularly the gibbon perturbed him. So
yeah, and he was a Christian, and he wanted to explain how they were separate, but he couldn't. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, 100%. He couldn't, and yeah, his quote is very classic. Lest I bring all the theologians onto my head for not separating them. And then he's like, maybe by virtue of the discipline, I should just do it anyways.
I think he said he'd be under the ban of all Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, for me, the biggest thing is, like, obviously the skeleton, obviously the genome, obviously we share pretty much every muscle in our bodies with the other apes and chimps. But a big one that I don't think is appreciated and will never be touched by creationists is behavior. That's a huge one. So I don't know if you've ever seen like teenage boys when they get mad at each other, but they kind of, saunter up, or just like guys in general, like when they're doing MMA, like they kind of saunter up. There's very particular body language to pre-fighting, right? Puff out their chest, shoulders back, kind of swiveling their head like that. If you've ever seen a chimp about to fight, they do that verbatim. They puff out their chest, they saunter, they do the exact same thing. I would love to do a side-by-side comparison of teenage boys about to fight or MMA fighters about to fight and chimps about to fight. It's the same thing. How mothers coddle and calm their young down. It's just like a human mother. How they carry their baby on their hip when they're walking bipedally, just like human mothers do, especially in hunter-gatherer societies.
Yeah, I've heard that sometimes female chimps will even like carry around sticks like their babies, like they'll cradle them like stuff like that, and it looks like they're mimicking humans, but it's more like we're mimicking them almost,
It's always been that way. It's always been like people love looking at other apes and being like, look how like us they are. We're just like them. I mean, they have their own politics. They mourn their dead. They experience the same range of emotions that we do. They play tricks on each other. They laugh, tickled. I mean, they do anything that you can think of that a human does. Sort of in our basal interactions, chimps are probably doing it too. My favorite is when ideas are like, look at the things humans build. Okay, they're just complicated tools. Everything we make is a tool, basically, to help us accomplish some given task, even if that task is as simple as comforting yourself, right? Or making a task, a chore, easier.
Or eating termites.
Or hitting babies with a sharpened stick. Or hammering walnuts open with your favorite rock that was meticulously picked and you carry around with you as you move about with the rest of your troop. These guys are doing that, and here's the killer: they've got a brain that's effectively 1/4 to 1/3 the size of ours, and they're doing all of this stuff. We haven't changed that much. It's just the changes that have been made are significant on the outset. They express themselves.
Just listening to Erica and AJ do their stuff.
Saws to saw wood.
Yeah, there's another really good one of Kanzi, a bonobo, who was taught, and then they film him doing it, how to start a fire and then make s'mores. So he lights a match and he starts the fire and he puts a marshmallow on the edge of the stick and he roasts it and he's just hanging out doing camping stuff. It's awesome.
That's crazy. I was thinking a second ago when you mentioned like doing a side by side of like a chimp sauntering up before a fight in a human. I think if you could like the motion capture they do for video games where they put the little balls on the human. If you could do that for both, that would be interesting, and then compare the data between those. I bet it'd be very similar.
I bet you're right. I bet it would be similar. And to that point, there was a very interesting study done years and decades ago. It was thought that chimps didn't use their facial expressions very much, and they couldn't recognize each other as well as humans could. And that was used to kind of put this emphasis on human advanced sociality, right? But the funny thing is, they were testing the chimpanzees with human faces and human facial expressions, and they used that to justify that they aren't as good as we are at identifying individuals and inferring facial expressions. But then someone thought, hey, how about instead we just do it with chimps? How about we show them chimp individuals and chimp facial expressions, and they track us like precisely. They recognize their own facial expressions, which are nuanced because we look very strange to chimps. We look like big babies. Like imagine if we had like a 6 foot tall human baby. That's kind of what we look like to chimps. We have very neonatic features. And a classic is that if you look at how the bones of the skull change from a human infant to our adulthood versus how chimps infant changes from adulthood, they change a lot more. It's actually called retained neoteny. We still have big eyes relative to when we were infants. You know, our prognathism is much less.
Hey, so-
our brow ridges don't increase that much. So it's really neat.
That's amazing. So I know that we have some content creators in common that we like Bosch, Entrepoints, and Armstrong. Can you name some other channels you enjoy? Like, have you ever seen Philosophy Tube?
I love Philosophy Tube. Yeah, Abby's awesome. Love Philosophy Tube. I watched Lindsay Ellis, of course. I watched one of my guilty pleasure. I guess it's not a guilty pleasure because her content's awesome. I love Jenny Nicholson. She does these really obscure reviews. They're really fun. Obviously, PBS Eons is great. One of my guilty pleasure, subs is Bob Gimlin, who does like videos. I think they're really, most of the time you can go, okay, it's probably fits, but they're quite fun to kind of follow. What else myself? I listen to a lot of true crime, so I like that chapter a lot for true crime stuff. 42 North or North 42, I think that's some pretty good anthropology videos that I like quite a bit. SciShow's good. I like that too.
You like a lot of bread tubers?
Yeah. I'm a little bit based in bread pill.
Have you heard of the channel Thought Slime?
Yeah, I know Thought Slime. I haven't seen much of their content myself, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, I love their videos. It's really good, so I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
To check on that channel again. But yeah, Bosch, he is doing some really good charity work recently. So
yeah, the 24-hour Alpine Children's Fund stream. That I don't know how I couldn't stay up for 27 hours. I couldn't do it. I have absolutely no desire to stay up for that many hours. Although playing in 64 games is very fun, I don't think I could do it for 27 hours straight.
Yeah, maybe when I was like 12, and I would just do it incidentally, not even trying.
Oh yeah. H-Bomber guy, he does great videos as well. He had a great vaccine video come out recently that was just very good.
I love his flat Earth video. I love
the measured response. Yeah, he's got the great climate change video too. With the sell their homes to who, Ben?
Yes.
Command.
Yes. So, what are some like resources, like online or otherwise, that have helped you make content for your channel?
Oh man, there is a. I'm not going to be too specific. There are a lot of websites that help you access papers that you might not otherwise be able to access that are very helpful. There's a certain Science Hub website that I use sometimes because I use it because I'm too lazy to actually go through my institution. You have to like sign in through your institution on every single website that you're trying to go through, whether it's like POS or you go through Nature or whatever. I'm just not about that. I'm too lazy for that. Other websites, I mean, funny enough, Talk Origins is really helpful. And Talk Origins hasn't updated their website in like a decade, and that should tell you how little creationist arguments have changed. Because Talk Origins basically still works.
It's a good point.
They used to.
Yeah, I mean, if I need a quick sort of refutation for like a creationist, I can't think of a better website to go to because it's just there. It's text. I can literally type in any subject that the person brings up and just be Google and that term and then Talk Origins and then it's just like text and then it's like it's so easy.
It's amazing. Yeah. Another one you should consider using is the Debate Evolution subreddit. That's also where I got my start. And if you need an answer to a modern creationist question, things like genetic entropy or Nathaniel Jensen's mitochondrial mutation rate, like recent stuff, Debate Evolution's got you covered. I know all of the mods from Debate Evolution. They're all great. The community's changed a little since I was active about a year ago, but great you've got any questions, you can hop on there and ask it yourself. And professionals, like the folks who run it and the folks who are active there, usually, like almost all of them have a degree in their given subject that they come on and talk about. So you can pretty well.
I do lurk there sometimes.
It's very helpful if you're looking for modern stuff. Other good, there are some great blogs. Natural Historia is great, run by Duff, I think. That's a good one for creationist claims that are modern. Age of Rocks by Jonathan Baker is good for geology stuff. And if you're looking for just like general papers, paper updates, stuff like Science Daily can help you get a really good handle without having to get into the technical literature on what the new stuff is saying. So, Anthropology Today, stuff like that, you can just Google like recent anthropology news, and it's going to pop up, and it'll be like, here's the general findings that they found, and they give the DOIs. You can go check it out for yourself too. Great resource for doing like keeping up to date with current literature.
Awesome. Thank you for all that. So I think you said that your fiance's dad did 23andMe.
Yeah. He's really Neanderthal heavy. We've got some Neanderthals lurking around in some fuss in the hen house way back in the day.
Wow. So I thought maybe it'd be fun to just sort of share some of the information that they sent me about how much Neanderthal DNA is in my genome, and et cetera.
Yeah.
And you just sort of give your thoughts on that. So they say that apparently I have more Neanderthal DNA than 66% of other customers. And it says out of the 7,462 variants they tested, they found 249 variants in my DNA that trace back to the Neanderthals. And altogether, the Neanderthal ancestry accounts for less than 2% of my DNA.
Okay. So you've got some lurking around back there, but not too much. Not too much.
Mm-hmm. It tells you that how Neanderthal DNA might influence your traits. So it says I have one variant associated with having a worse sense of direction, one with being less likely to have a fear of heights, one with being a better sprinter than a distance runner. And like at 23andMe, like it'll go like you can look on there and it'll say like, you know, you have an aversion to cilantro, or you have your ring finger is longer than your index finger, and all this stuff about me, and it's all right. I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did they? It's kind of amazing how accurate it is. Like, they can tell if your earlobe is detached, you know, from your like neck, just all this stuff, and it's really interesting. Like, if you haven't done it, I definitely recommend you do, because I think that would be a really cool video for your channel.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be awesome. Kind of to that point, it's kind of funny. So they're in. So in Neanderthals, one of their diagnostic traits is a hardened knob at the back of their skull. It's called an occipital lobe, because the back of the skull is where your occipital lobe is housed, right? That's that lobe of the brain. And this occipital bun is what it's called. In Neanderthals, it kind of allows for a large occipital lobe. You know, Neanderthals consistently have larger brains than we do, and it's mostly in that occipital zone that they've got these big old brains. So my fiance's my future brother-in-law, he's like, he and I were talking when we had first started dating, and he was like, yeah, I got this, you do anthropology. I was like, yeah. And he's like, I got this kind of thinking knot on the back of my head. And I was like, thinking knot? I was like, come over here. He turns over, and I'm like probing the back of his skull, you know, I'm like feeling around. I'm like, holy shit, this is an occipital bun. I was like, it's small, but you've got like this little bun structure. And I told my human evolution professor, he was like, oh my God, you have to get him to come in here. I would love to see that. He's like, I've heard some people have it, but I've never like met someone who did. And my fiance's got a much smaller one, just almost like a little knob. It's not even that impressive as far as his occipital bun goes, I should say.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really funny because their dad has 5% Neanderthal, so it's
wow.
How it kind of does show up in descendants, you know.
So I saw that you did some like gaming content on your channel recently. What was the game you were playing where you're sort of running around as an ape? And do you plan on doing more of that in the future, or was it just sort of like a one-off thing?
I mean, I think it's fun. A lot of people really liked that. I got a lot of really good feedback for the epic gaming streams. And I also got some not so good feedback where people were like, I don't subscribe for gaming. So So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was a great opportunity to just chat with everybody out while I'm playing. The game was Ancestors: The Humankind Odyssey. And I would love to do that with a couple of other games that are kind of known for being antsy. Like I'd love to do Far Cry Primal. I think that'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
There are a couple of games like that I think would be very enjoyable to do from a kind of a, hey, this is my background and here's what I think about it perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
At least the game's relevant to the channel, right? Like if you were just playing something that was completely like Rocket League or something, I could maybe understand the complaints, but it's...
Yeah. Well, and usually, to be fair, I got way more positive feedback than negative feedback on those. But, it was kind of just something I was doing every Monday to kind of just for fun. So I don't know. If I do it again, I might limit it to I might put it to another channel. But we'll see. Or I might keep it on. I don't know. I'm still trying to decide. I might put a poll out there. We'll see how everybody. But the people who answer the polls are usually like really cool and are like, do what you want. Like I'm not gonna unsub because I'm playing video games. But I did have a very, very fun, very based interaction with MFB, who was criticizing me to go play video games and let the adults talk, he says. And I say, well, I noticed I didn't start my gaming streams until I was like mostly done with my thesis for my master, the one that I'm hoping to submit for publication. How are the Amazon books doing? Like it's okay. Like you're gonna come out and play video. Wait, what kind of boomer shit is that, right? Like video games are for babies. Like okay.
Yeah. That's it's any angle they can attack from, Okay, so we're getting into the final questions finally. I wrote a lot of questions, so.
No, please. Again, you're going to shut me up. We'll go for a long time on these.
Yeah, no, I'll rein you in, Erica. But okay, so if hypothetically we do start to see some small improvements in like the content and actions of like YEC YouTubers, like what do you think that would look like, or what do you want to see them get better at, even if it's something small?
Oh my God, I get to give my creationist wish list. This is great. This is perfect. First and foremost, I would love to see the ceasing of platforming other more dangerous science denialism, like prominent anti-vaxxer content. I would love to see that go away. Prominent anti-mask content. Let's get that out of here too while we're at it. I would love to see better behavior, as in a lot of the rhetoric and banter that comes out of many of these channels. And if I'm dunking on creationist channels, assume Sal is not included. His behavior is excellent. He's a good guy. It's almost all MFB and associates.
You know who you are.
Yeah, and Galaxy Brain Matt Powell is also in this list. Real smart guy. Love him. Excellent content. Only the best. So I would love to see a ceasefire with regard to like needless aggression as well. I mean, if what they're claiming is a desire for discussion and dialogue, then there is no need to call people names or tell them that you could break them in half. That kind of stuff is just like, I tend to think, okay, if you're threatening to attack the other person, one, that's great support for my side of the argument that you're an angry chimp. But also, it makes me think that you don't actually have any argument. So if you're going to be needlessly aggressive and say you're going to beat the other person up, I'm just going to assume that you're hanging out on the playground in middle school again. I'd love to see both of those things by the wayside. As far as, better behavior overall, kindness, professionality, civility, things like that. Yes. Yeah, John Maddox. Whew, that's a great example of the opposite of how you should behave with people if you want to be civil.
I'm highlighting all of these. All of his comments are going up.
Yeah, they're superb. But in a more serious fashion, as far as like, okay, like if the civility were to come back, and we were to lose the actual dangerous pseudoscience, and since this is my wish list, I would love to see the bigotry go away too, but I don't anticipate that that's as achievable as the outright dangerous pseudoscience. So I'd love to see some actual engagement with the arguments. So instead of, for instance, 2-hour rambling videos, I would like to see shorter videos that actually systematically address a single problem, or maybe in these larger videos, a table of contents would be nice in the description that says, hey, here's what we're talking about. Go here if you want to hear about this. Go here if you want to hear about that. And if perhaps guests are on, it would always be nice that the guests remain limited in scope to the areas that they know about. For instance, if you're having a guy with an MS in geology, maybe they shouldn't be talking about things like the races of humans, right? That feels like a wrong assignment there. So those are some of the things that I would like to see. I think that we'll never really get that. I think that that's kind of off the table. I would also like to see, as at the very tippy top of my wish list, that is definitive would never happen, actual predictions from some of these YouTube creationists instead of relying on source cherry picking from the big boys would be nice, as well as from the big boys, a cohesive model, a singular cohesive model with mechanisms that changes as problems pop up, as models should do, and altering your hypothesis, trying to accommodate the data. Now, as always, a model that accommodates the data is inherently inferior to the model that predicts the data, right? That predicts future data, like evolutionary theory does hundreds of thousands of times yearly, actually. In any study that uses a phylogenetic correction, you're relying on comp-descent. Medicine, agriculture, these are fields that rely on evolutionary theory working. The age of the earth underpins the entire energy industry. You don't find oil without being able to model basins. That isn't something that can happen. So our entire economy, from our healthcare to the cars that we drive, relies on the paradigm of evolutionary theory in the age of the earth. So if you're going to be overturning that paradigm, you need a cohesive model with predictive mechanisms. And I don't think we're going to get that any more than we're going to lose the bigotry. So.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Although when you mentioned earlier that guests should, talk about the topic that they are well educated in, I would like to take this opportunity to ask you, Erica, are you a geneticist?
Here, I'll give you the full soundbite. I'm not a geneticist. Can add that to the list, the ever-growing list. I am incredibly flattered that Raw Matthew felt the need to consume hours of my content to make that list. For those of you who may not know, in the side chat, there is this video that circulates mostly in the young Earth creationist communities that is a supercut of me saying I'm not a geneticist, which is, of course, my only weakness. And it spans dozens of videos and dozens of debates. To find all of those times that I said that, the consumption of my content would have to take over 24 hours. I have to imagine. So incredible. I love it. I'm very, very happy that some of these creationists are watching my video.
Yeah, maybe a side effect, an unintended side effect, will be that they'll actually learn something from watching all of your videos to clip out those, short sound bites.
One can only hope. But I do want to add something to what you just said, because you highlighted a mistake of mine that I made a couple moments ago. You can be an expert in your field and talk about things that aren't in your field, as long as you source them well. That's what pretty much everybody here on YouTube does. When you're talking about what you don't know about, you can do that as long as you source yourself. That was incorrect of me to say that you strictly have to talk about what you know. My problem is more when the authority of your given field is weaponized to talk offhand about things you know nothing about. If you're not going to provide the sources from them, or you haven't done so at another location. So, for instance, I'm not a geologist, but I can sit here and talk about how important basin modeling is, because I've talked to geologists, and that's documented on my channel. And I can provide those sources in the comments here as well, if need be. But if you're going to profess yourself to be an expert in one field and then talk outside of that, my my request is that you source what you're saying as much as you can.
Right, and when those people are speaking about a topic where they're sort of challenging the scientific consensus versus somebody like me, like if I'm a layman and I'm talking about, like, say, evolution, but I'm simply agreeing with what the consensus in science is, and I'm sourcing from places like, I don't know, the National Center for Science Education about what the definition of evolution is, and then you have somebody like Ken Hovind giving his definition of evolution. I think it's fair to say, it's better to be siding with the consensus versus if you're a layman and you're posting something that's going against it. Well, you better have a lot of evidence or some sort of expertise to be able to refute the consensus if you're going to challenge it.
Absolutely. And to add to your excellent point there, you have to have what's the word I'm looking for? You have to have a precedent. That's it. You have to have a precedent for overturning the paradigm. So paradigm shifts have happened in the past. The classic example that everyone uses is relativity from Newtonian physics, because there were things that Newtonian physics could not explain. Once you started getting into things like orbital mechanics, Newtonian physics failed to actually account for that data, right? That's where relativity comes in. It's not that Newtonian physics doesn't work anymore and is booted from the marketplace of scientific ideals, right? Like, it's still here. We use it constantly. It was simply adjusted with relativity coming into the scene. We haven't had a paradigm shift to that level, like, since then, unless you go back to, like, heliocentrism coming onto the scene from geocentrism. And even that wasn't a paradigm or sort of a classically held idea by the scientific community. It was held by the church and the public at large. Those were two inherently different things. If someone's like, oh, but we were wrong about, like, the sun circling the earth, then you can just say, well, the scientists weren't wrong about that. A lot of the scientists were getting that right even earlier, right? I mean, and then when you talk about paradigm shifts after that, you're talking about more, it's the addition to present science.
Mm-hmm. So, Erica, you're quite a talented artist. How long have you been sort of drawing, and what, like, influenced you to have the sort of art style that you have? Because I really like it.
Oh, thank you. That's a massive compliment. I would not call myself an artist. I doodle and I like to draw cartoons, and that's because I love cartoons. I love all cartoons pretty much. If it's an animated movie, I've probably seen it. I find them to be very fun, very whimsical. I love looking at the animation. I think they tell excellent stories. It's a perfect medium for getting into things that are fantastic in concept. And I like fun slapstick things from Looney Tunes and all the way up into modern day cartoons that are also really awesome, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, for example. And some anime, which are also really good. I mean, I just think it's an awesome art form, and I do my best to imitate it, because there was a time many moons ago when I wanted to be an animator, and then I realized what actually went into animation, and I thought, I think I'm going to shelf this for now. It's like, that's a lot. It's a lot of work. You put in 12 hours and you get 4 seconds of good animation. And even mine is like significantly like fewer frames per second than some of the stuff that you see produced professionally. As for what influences my style, this is kind of funny in an ironic way, but I really like the art style of Jamie Hewlett, who does the art for Gorillas. And he also does
yes. Yeah, I can see that now. That's true.
It's much more so. It used to be much more true than it is now. The cartoons that I use for the channel isn't inspired as much by that as it kind of used to be. But Jamie Hewlett is one of my favorite artists for cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my opinion, if somebody is creating art, then that means you can call yourself an artist. And if you're creating animations, then that makes you an animator. And I think the animated intro on your videos is incredible, in my opinion, especially the music. I think it's great.
The thing is that, like, that's my current, like, my current penultimate, or my current ultimate, right? Like, that is my my high point for animating. I would love to someday do that same kind of animation again, but like add to it, because that song is actually quite a bit longer. That song is "The Mind Electric" by Hawaii Part 2, or from the album Hawaii Part 2, which is a very weird, eclectic album. But I think I don't know, I really like it. It kind of asks for an animation, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you like it. Thank you. I've actually gotten great feedback on that intro, which I was surprised and very flattered. I can only, my brain was like, okay, it's because the people who watch your channel are like science people, and usually science people are the folks that are animating. So their standards are lower. So that's how I'm framing it.
Well, you're quite talented in my opinion. So
thank you, AJ. That's very kind of you.
So you're planning to start your PhD in the fall. How old do you think you'll be when it's completed? Basically, I'm wondering when I can start calling you Dr. Gibbo.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Oh God. Well, the nice thing is it's kind of a double-edged sword, but I actually have a graduate assistantship, so I don't have to pay for any of my tuition. But I am teaching while I get my PhD. So my job while I'm getting my PhD is I teach. I do labs and stuff like that. I'm going to be teaching biological anthropology labs. And there will be a period, as PhDs usually go, and since I'm doing, I'm hoping to stay in primatology rather than going for human evolution, which I love, but primatology is my passion. Primatology is my graphic design is my passion. I love primatology and extant primates more than I'm interested in the fossil hominins or even the mycenates, even though they're really awesome and I love them. So there will be a period in my PhD where I'll probably have to leave the internet for a decent period of time, or at least be more absent than I am now, because I'll have to go and collect data, and I'll probably be somewhere relatively remote for that.
You'll be like King Crocoduck.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping. Some field sites have decent internet, so maybe I could do like, I don't think I'd be able to do like nice edited videos, but I could at the very least do almost like a vlog style. Here's what I'm doing. If I can manage to upload that with the bandwidth that we have. That's like way down the line though. For the next probably year or two, I'll just be teaching and making videos, which is, awesome. I'm actually really excited for it. But I hope to have my PhD done optimistically in like 4 or 5 years. But I am teaching, so it could take it. Realistically, it might be more like 6.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think you would make a great teacher if you did that as a career, because I've learned a lot just in this stream. Like, I'm not even kidding. And you're somebody who really makes it easy to learn this difficult subject matter.
Well, that's awesome, and I think the key to it is at least all my favorite professors, because what the dream would be to be a research professor. I would love to do teaching in the fall and in the spring at a university, and then going and doing my research in the summer somewhere cool, looking at monkeys, because there aren't any monkeys here in the United States. Other than the ones in Congress. Zing. Yeah, I'm thinking I would love to do that. I think some of my favorite professors I have ever had were the ones that are just head over heels in love with their subject. One of my best professors taught entomology, and he was like, he formally studied mites, right? Like, that's what he did as a research professor. He was a mite guy, and mites are not exciting, but listening to this guy talk about mites, I was like, holy shit, mites are amazing. This is the coolest thing ever. And I developed a secondary passion for arthropods, for entomology. Because this guy, my professor, he was just so good at kind of like exposing us to his passion. And that's kind of what I hope to do, when hopefully I can be a professor, but that's what I aim to do here on YouTube. Is I think all this stuff is super, super epic, and I just want to share it with everyone else, because it's just so cool. Our past as a species is awesome. Our cousins alive today are cool. It's just the whole world is just missing out on a huge piece of their own history when they miss out on studying primates and studying human evolution. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, your passion is infectious, Erica.
That's the goal.
So, would you say that professor thought that mites are tight?
Yeah, mites were tight. Yeah, he was absolutely head over heels for mites.
I apologize.
No. Don't ever apologize for jokes like that.
Well, Erica, thank you so much for coming on. Before we end this interview, I just wanted to say congratulations on your engagement and submitting your thesis.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been this past year and a half, is 2 years, I guess you could say. It's been a big time for me. I'm excited. I'm just high on life right now.
Yes, I can tell.
Through it all, I'm psyched. So, and thank you so much for having me on. I mean, you basically just asked me the questions that I love to answer the most and kind of let me run with it. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I've got one more question, and basically, I guess without divulging any more personal info than you're comfortable with, like, what's the future for like Guts It Gibbon personally, academically, and as a YouTube channel?
We're going pretty steady right now. I mean, nothing too big change wise is in the immediate future. I'm pretty settled where I'm at location wise. I'm going to be starting my PhD in the fall. I'm going to be getting married officially probably sooner than I'm going to do a wedding ceremony, because I hope to buy or move into like a house instead of renting. But the market is horrible for that right now, so who knows what's actually going to happen. Long term, I'm hoping to get my PhD. I'd love to be a research professor, and I hope to specialize in sexual dimorphism and extant primates, because I think that it's really interesting and I like to talk about it. YouTube-wise, I'm hoping to just keep releasing videos. I'm kind of trying to broaden my videos a bit more. There are a lot of series that I kind of want to get started on, and as much as I love dunking on creationists, I think I'm probably going to open it up a little bit more and do some more conventional science stuff. And I also have a video coming out somewhat soon about dunking on this absolutely incredible video from Gaia Streaming Services, which genetically modified skeptic colloquially called Netflix for insane people. It's like spirit streaming service. They have this video called The Ancient Humans, The Lost Ancient Humans of Antarctica. So I made this video on it. It's great. I love it. I think it's very fun as a video. I upload it and it's copyright striked by Gaia, and to add insult to injury, all my ads are Gaia ads now. So it's like, not only are they advertising to me, but they've blocked my critique of their content for the next little while. So, and I've got like 3 videos that are all going to get copyrighted, that are already filmed and stuff, that have Gaia content. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm disputing them, but we'll see what happens. And then I've got go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so did you say you have videos you haven't uploaded yet that have this content in them that you expect to get struck?
I have 2 videos coming up that I haven't actually uploaded that have not been uploaded, but they have Gaia content. Why? What is your suggestion?
Okay, well, Jim Sterling sort of found out that if you have content from one copyright holder and then you add like a clip from Harry Potter in it, the 2 companies will both claim the video and neither one of them can run ads on it. So nobody makes money on the video.
Good. I just want to spite them. I am not happy. Gaia they're already on my hit list for some of their garbo claims, but then they copyright strike me and expect me to subscribe to Gaia as if I would ever. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll have to take that advice. But it's disputed, but I think they've got a little while before they got I think they have like 30 days to act on it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No garbo for the Gibbo.
No garbo for Gibbo.
Okay, well, thank you, Erica, and thank you to everybody in the chat. That's going to do it for this video. So I don't know how long that was, but yeah, that's about it. So thank you for everybody for showing up, and hit the like button, go to Erica's channel, go to buy her merch, and yeah, just do all the things.
And subscribe and hit the bell.
Yes.
Hit the bell for notifications. Yeah, you can. I always forget that one, but hit the bell. On Atheist Junior's channel is what I'm saying. Don't hit the bell on
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. That was cool. Oh. Hmm. What? What? If I can run. I did this before. I can run to. I can do that. Hmm. If I can watch. Damn it! Oops, too far back. Too far jump. Jump too far. I guess. Hmm. I can do this. I'm gonna try it. Run for it. You overlook. Oop. Hello. $301. Crap. Fell Reaver. Fell Reaver. Bad Fell Reaver. Me. I do. Uh, it can be. Yeah. Crap, 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 crap. Run away. Oh, God, run the Terracock Forest. In the water. In the water. In the water. The Grand Shathrath is that way. Adele, look at this Shathar shade druid. Might be the only place in all lands where it's almost for safety. Gurnard knows the Shathar drove the demons away from here. Near Manaro, you see Adele inside Terrors of Light. The leader of the Shathar is all aspiring if I ever saw one. First, I think it's speak land. Okay. Whee! I guess. Oh, I guess. I gotta see. See. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Fred, you're welcome in South City. You're safe here. Sea of Light. Your face. Perhaps that you'll summon my servant. Okay. Here we go. Pickpockets from Lower City. Tell me, strangers. It'll take long. Oop. Wait, did I lose him? I lost him, didn't I? the capital of this world, its name means dwelling of light. When the Burning Legion turned the orcs against the Draenei, the fierce battle spot here, the Draenei fought tooth and nail, but in the end, the city fell. Skill of the Lord, see everyone use safe heavens, outlands, dwarfs are refuge to all wars, current and past. Aldor, if you gain strength. Outdoors, yeah, might be an enemy soon. I'm doing. Like no. Welcome to Sathrath. Talk about the blah blah, the blood elves attack, but they're like, we love you now. Speak the giant light bulb. And then the what else joined and became other side. The phone rang and up to everybody. Oh, and like, we love you now. We're no longer following the prince. became the scry, and they became the scryers. Only scryers are allowed in this. Only scryers are allowed in the scryer place. Outdoors for the life forgiveness. However, they don't like the scryers. Nope. Their faction wars returned. Not Horde versus Alliance, which kind of still is, but now Outdoor versus Scryers. Those Scryers, if two factions have got to get up in their old feud, Joe. They work together by killing each other. The Shadow Moon. Guys, should be ready to see you again. Remember, serve the South Outdoor Scryer. Or a group of others dislike. See if I complete. Eee! I showed you too about Shathrath. Yep, I sure did. Yep. Who are you? I am a Div. Warcraft 2. Beyond the Portal. Killed him. Yep. I blew down. I see. Trying to side to meet the Squire leaders. Sears Library. Where is straight ahead? Let's try it. Good. Time to take a break. Food break. All right. See y'all in a bit. Bye.